There's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day.
Crooked Joe Biden released these terrorists and all of these people into the United States totally unchecked, totally unvetted. We have no idea who they are, where they come from. They're pouring into our country like never before. It's crazy.
So let me tell you about Donald Trump's 78th birthday bash on Capitol Hill this June. It was a total circus. Imagine he's there, cracking jokes, stumbling through his speech, and even having a meltdown about Taylor Swift backing Joe Biden instead of him.
Hey, dear you, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, President Trump. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel had a field day with that one, showing clips on his show and making fun of Trump left and right. Now get this, Trump went off about Nancy Pelosi's daughter, claiming she told him that she and her mom could have been a thing in another life. Crazy talk.
Right? I'm not so sure that one of the daughters said that, but this is what Donald Trump remembers, and this is the story he told, and everybody's laughing, and this, that, and the other. He's sort of saying, you know what, like, she's not that bad. He's like sort of throwing her a bone, but the daughter takes it way too seriously. One of the daughters, I think she's got like 4 daughters. And so the next thing you know, the daughter's responding on Twitter, and now it becomes this whole big thing. Look at this. Nancy Pelosi's daughter, this is in the Daily Mail, great paper, avidly denied Donald Trump's account that one of the former speaker's daughters had told him that he and her mom would have been a great thing together in another life. Quote, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, he said, oh, this is bad, is a wacko. He's laughing, right?
Kimmel grabbed onto that story too, especially after it blew up on Twitter. When Pelosi's daughter saw it, she blasted Trump big time, calling him out for lying and being completely off his rocker about her mom. Turns out this isn't new for Trump. He's always spinning these wild tales that just don't hold up. Like every time he says something bizarre, the truth smacks him right back. And that's exactly what happened at his birthday party. More of his usual strange antics getting called out.
They'll be even more drawn to the neon man ranting about how toilets don't flush anymore thanks to transgender swimmers. But I do like this coin toss thing. You know, why stop with the debate side? Let's have the coin determine who wins the election. Yeah, it would be so much less stressful than 5 months of campaigning. Just flip the coin. Heads, it's Trump. Tails, it's Biden. If the coin bounces and rolls into the sewer, it's RFK Jr.
The party itself was hush-hush, held at some secret spot, but it had a bunch of big-name Republicans, including Mitch McConnell. Funny thing though, McConnell and Trump haven't been on good terms. Yet, there was McConnell backing Trump up. Even Kimmel couldn't believe it, especially since Trump had slammed McConnell's wife before. But there was McConnell, acting all supportive of Trump. Now, the whole thing was just another page in the weird and wild book of Trump's antics, with everyone from Kimmel to Pelosi's daughters weighing in. It's like no matter where he goes or what he says, there's always some drama and someone ready to set the record straight. Okay, let's dive into this drama.
I do want to point to one of the most notable moments, which was caught on camera, of this meeting. It is in this photo here, Mitch McConnell shaking hands with Donald Trump. This was the first time the two of them have spoken since January 6th, since that election of Joe Biden was certified, and Mitch McConnell congratulated President Joe Biden, despite the fact that Mitch McConnell had endorsed Donald Trump. The two still had yet to have a conversation. Clearly here, though, a handshake. Later, McConnell saying that the entire meeting was entirely positive.
So that led to Trump insulting McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao. He wrote, does Coco Chao have anything to do with Joe Biden's classified documents being sent and stored in Chinatown? Which is insane. So yesterday, they asked Mitch McConnell if he'll support Trump for president and would he be attending the meeting tomorrow? And his response, I thought, was
so
obvious.
Senator McConnell suddenly cozying up to Trump isn't a huge surprise. It's pretty wild, but yeah, we saw it coming. Picture this on his show around mid-June. Jimmy Kimmel goes all out talking about Trump's birthday bash that just happened. He really didn't pull any punches, roasting those MAGA fans who are all hyped up to greet Trump with open arms and
It was a great meeting. There's tremendous unity in the Republican Party.
In a closed-door meeting with House Republicans, sources say he lashed out at the Justice Department, calling it dirty. Along with an expletive, he also criticized Milwaukee, host to the Republican National Convention next month, calling it horrible. Kimmel was clearly not having it. He was just grossed out seeing all the top Republicans and those MAGA diehards showering Trump with love. There's this clip where Kimmel can't help but throw shade at everyone cozying up to Trump. And you know what? He wasn't even close to being done. His jokes kept coming, and they were brutal. Imagine how red-faced some folks must have felt hearing that. Later in that episode, Kimmel keeps the laughs coming. He mentions he's got a special gift for Trump, knowing the guy probably tunes into his show now and then. What's the gift? A list of the most embarrassing and hilarious nicknames Kimmel's ever thrown at Trump over the years. Just picture that scene. It's a mix of funny and cringe, and oh, there's even more where that came from. Sing it, God bless the USA. The laughs just keep on coming with Trump's antics, like not too long ago when he was caught on camera chumming it up with country singer Lee Greenwood, praising him for cashing in with those God bless the USA Bibles. Kimmel couldn't help but crack jokes about that whole situation.
This is video of Trump congratulating his partner on this deal, country singer Lee Greenwood, the God Bless the USA guy, on how much money they're making from it.
We made more money from one song than anybody in the history of music, okay? And he's doing pretty well with the Bible, too.
Good for you guys. Squeeze as much cash out of the Word of God as you can.
So there's this pastor named Tim Wildsmith, right? He's really good at reviewing Bibles on YouTube, and he's looked at over 800 of them. Now, when it comes to these Bibles that Trump supports, Tim wasn't too sure about them. They made a big deal with lots of ads to promote these Bibles, but Tim wasn't impressed. He even thought they might be made in Asia, but he wasn't sure since there was no info about it. Then there's more to say about Trump. Back in June, he had a meeting with Logan Paul where they ended up talking about a variety of things, including Logan's beverage brand called Prime. During the conversation, Trump appeared somewhat uncomfortable and out of place, which isn't very common for him. This moment, of course, didn't go unnoticed by Jimmy Kimmel, who took the opportunity to poke fun at Trump on his show. It seems like no matter the situation, Trump often finds himself as the main target for jokes and comedic commentary, whether he's actively participating in events or just being discussed in the media.
Meanwhile, Trump, after years now of only doing interviews with Fox and all these other right-wing bootlicker news channels, is finally sitting down with a real journalist.
So you started together
on YouTube.
And did you branch out, each have your own thing?
Well, eventually, because I went to college. Jake was still in high school. He ended up dropping out. I finished my first year.
It's an amazing two stories, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Who makes more money?
It depends on the year. It depends if Jake has fights.
and it depends on when this sells, right?
Yeah. I think.
Is that your new drink? Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
If you make it, I like it.
That's Pulitzer Prize winner Logan Paul and the former president plugging in energy drink. It sounds like a joke, but that is the circle of hell we live in now.
He just keeps going everywhere Trump goes. Someone has a joke about him. You have to wonder, does this ever stop for him, or is this just how it's going to be for him?
For example, Melania Trump Googled, do felony convictions invalidate a prenup? But that's Trump's tactic, to stall and delay and to stall and delay to try to get out of it. Same tactic Melania uses in the bedroom.
She's a private person, a great person, very confident person, and she loves our country very much. She'll be.
So, did you catch that, Paul? Turns out 58% of folks think it's okay for a felon to run for office. But get this, only a tiny fraction of Republicans agree with that. Now, jumping over to what's happening with Trump, Melania's absence is turning heads.
Melania Trump has largely stayed out of the public eye since her husband left the White House, but now that he's the apparent Republican nominee, many are wondering how she's going to be involved. Is she going to be that involved in his re-election campaign?
Mrs. Trump, are you going to return to the campaign trail with your husband? Stay tuned.
A comedian didn't miss a chance to poke fun at that. And you know, it's not looking good for Trump, especially with all his 2024 hopes.
When he begged some Mexican inmates to help him get over the wall, refrain from pointing out the obvious irony.
When he begged some Mexican inmates to help him get over the wall, refrain from pointing out the obvious irony.
It's not acceptable.
And I was surprised because that is not the man that I know.
The comedian was on fire in his latest show. He made a crack about Trump being in Orange County and played on the word orangey classic style, right? And he didn't stop there.
Meanwhile, Trump is running around the country trying to balance his talk about a busy schedule. You know, he's running in all the primaries, and he's got 4 trials going. Today, he had to do his makeup in the car.
Donald Trump is busy with his activities. If you're looking to share this or discuss it further, could you clarify what specific thoughts or reactions you're seeking?
To former Trump White House Communications Director Alyssa Farah Griffin's saying former President Trump often discussed executing people at White House meetings. Speaking with Mediaite on Friday, Griffin highlighted an April interview from former Attorney General Bill Barr, where he was asked if he remembered a time when Trump called for a leaker to be executed. And here's what he told CNN. So former Republican House Speaker and board member of the Fox Corporation, Paul Ryan, appeared on Fox News earlier this week and, drumroll please, criticized Donald Trump for calling him unfit for office.
It's going to be a very, very close race. I think they're terrible choices that we're being presented with.
Not just how close we came to watching our institutions crumble that day. The ongoing threat is real. I mean, look at what happened just Saturday night in Las Vegas when the former president, called the convicted felons from January 6th, those who rioted on January 6th and tried to block the peaceful transfer of power. He called them warriors.
Alyssa Farah Griffin, who was Trump's communications director, posted yesterday and said that you were present at a moment when Trump suggested executing the person who leaked information that he went to the White House bunker when those George Floyd protests were happening outside the White House. Do you remember that?
I remember him being very mad about that. I actually don't remember him saying executing, but I wouldn't dispute it. You know, I mean, it doesn't sound. The president would lose his temper and say things like that. I doubt he would have actually carried it out. I don't,
And that's just the fate of that's what the primary voters selected, and I regret the fact that that's where we are.
All right, now I know a lot of these folks who also shared your same concerns about Donald Trump have sort of said, all right, we're rallying around Donald Trump. You had said, though, that would not be the case with you. You had said that he's a populist and an authoritarian narcissist, that character is too important to me, and it's a job that requires the kind of character he just doesn't have.
But he would say that on other occasions? You said
the president had I think people sometimes took him too literally, and he would say things like similar to that in occasions to blow off steam, but I wouldn't take him literally every time he did it.
Oh, you mean like he'll get rid of Roe? That's just blowing off steam?
Yeah, that's the way I feel. I agree with that. I don't support Biden either. I think his policies are terrible. I hate the fact that I feel like I had to write in a Republican like I did the last time in 2020. I voted for him in 2016, hoping that there was going to be a different kind of person in office. And I do think character is a really important issue. If you put yourself above the Constitution, as he has done.
Who are somehow set up by the police. He's called them hostages. He's called them patriots. He's promising to pardon them. He's not promising to abide by the results of the next election. So this past threat is very real right now.
Griffin went further, saying Trump had called for executions multiple times.
And Bill Barr kind of danced, said, I don't recall that specific instance, but there were others where he talked about executing people. And I'm like, how you rationalize that is a person fit in sound judgment to be president of the United States. They're reading the tea leaves. They know there's a very real chance he's going to be president again. And there's not a lot of glory or victory in being right, but being on the wrong side of Trump. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to.
But what happened?
I think that makes you unfit for office.
Was it the whole January 6th thing?
That's a part of it. I think it's a contribution of factors, but I think it really is just character at the end of the day. And the fact that if you're willing to put yourself above the Constitution, an oath you swear when you take office, in federal office, whether it's president or a member of Congress, you swear an oath to the Constitution. And if you're willing to suborn it to yourself, I think that makes you unfit for office.
As you probably know, we want to go back to January 6th. We talk about policing and supporting police officers. I think it's very important to support our Capitol Police that were here and protected the Capitol on January the 6th. I toured the DC jail with, in fact, one other member of this committee in the majority. And when we did that, Unfortunately, those prisoners, those insurrectionists, were treated like heroes. They were hugged. They were given handshakes by members of the majority, and particularly one member of this committee.
Over the weekend, former President Trump was bragging about how well he did on his cognitive test, which was administered by former White House doctor and current Congressman Ronnie Jackson. Watch this.
I took a cognitive test and I aced it. Doc Ronnie Johnson. Does everyone know Ronnie Johnson, congressman from Texas?
So, Gene, let's get this right. The Attorney General of the United States heard the Commander-in-Chief calling for the execution of staff members.
Yeah.
And then when he is asked about it, after he's made clear that he is going to endorse for president the man who's calling for the execution of staff members.
Yeah, there's even among Donald Trump's critics within the party, within the conservative movement, there's always a yes, but sort of equivocating in some way that Joe Biden is equally bad in his own right. You know, that criticism from Paul Ryan, certainly not the first time he's criticized Donald Trump, was relatively mild.
Do you know Ronnie Johnson? Because Ronnie Jackson is the name of the doctor. Trump bragged about passing one cognitive test while failing another. It's like walking into a glass door after the doctor says you have 20/20 vision. You're like,
Let's remember the facts. 17 of the 20 that were charged at that jail were charged with assaulting police. 6 of them had already pled guilty, yet they are being called, in some cases, heroes. They are being called hostages by folks in the majority.
Because I guess Barr is shocked and stunned by Joe Biden's student debt relief plan. That's where they always run to. Oh, well, if you think January 6th was bad and calling for the execution of staff members are bad, what about Joe Biden's 3-tier plan to relieve students of their debt, which they actually do. They actually, that's their go-to. You think January 6th was bad.
It was substantive. I didn't think he was out there throwing bombs. I think some of the points were pretty obvious to most people who watch politics. And for that, Trump supporting members of Congress in the House, one of them called Paul Ryan a piece of garbage for the comments you just heard there, and said he is not a real conservative if he doesn't support
just the opposite.
Donald Trump.
So what, this seems to be kind of also another litmus test for how to be in MAGA world. I mean, is this the new reality for this MAGA era of politicians, that they don't back down when they're confronted with facts?
What Barr says is so laughable, and what Alyssa said is so chilling, that we actually have Republicans, so scary, we actually have Republicans that are going to go out and endorse a guy who called for the execution of fellow staff members and then claims he doesn't remember it. Paul Ryan, one of the most conservative guys I worked with in Congress. I mean, here was our big difference, was he was a tax cut, I think, at all costs guy.
Perhaps it is, but I think that poses a test for all of us in journalism as well. I've made it a point, if they will not accept those facts, I don't go on to other issues. I'm not going to go to participate in some kind of a sham where you somehow equate the legitimacy of an election.
Yeah, I don't specifically remember that, but I won't deny it, right? I wouldn't say that I won't say that he didn't call for execution of staffers, because that's the sort of thing he did, right? That's the sort of thing he said. This is insane.
We were both economic conservatives. We were just focused on two different things, but nobody that worked with Paul would ever say he wasn't a conservative. And yet, anybody that saw what Donald Trump while he was president, raising the national debt more over his 4 years than any president in U.S. history.
Listen to this. I read that tomorrow, for the first time in nearly 25 years, Vladimir Putin is making a state visit to North Korea. Putin and Kim Jong-un. Yeah, also meeting up Voldemort, the Penguin, and Bowser from Super Mario Brothers.
or the peaceful transfer of power with a debate over tax cuts or environmental regulation. If you can't pass that fundamental threshold of saying, yes, the last election was not stolen, two, I will abide by the results of the next election, then I think that's all voters and viewers need to know. I don't think if you're willing to lie about something as big as that, why should anything else they want to talk about be given any credence?
We're talking about the President of the United States talking about how members of his staff should be executed for leaking information that he didn't want leaked, which was not national security information or anything. It's just something that he thinks is embarrassing to him. Absolutely unprecedented and insane.
It's a big visit. Right now, Kim Jong-un's deciding whether he should dress like Morpheus from The Matrix or Summer Diane Keaton. In response to Putin get together with Kim Jong-un, President Biden said this meeting between two dictators should be closely monitored, while Trump was like, FOMO.
Yeah, I mean, it's laughable. Amanda Carpenter, people who are actually real conservatives now, because the window has shifted so much under Donald Trump. And as we were talking about in our last hour, that Donald Trump will be up on Capitol Hill today.
Now, as we move ever closer to the debate between the incumbent president and his predecessor turned convicted felon and now opponent, the conversation was brought up on CNN by host Abby Phillip as to how things would pan out for the debate. To which ABC host George Stephanopoulos, as he has done several times now, went on the offensive, blasting Trump for his comments at his recent rally in Vegas, calling insurrectionists warriors.
As Bill Barr said, oh, well, people are taking him too literally. Well, I'm sorry, but that's like the only way I know how to take people, right? I mean, I can't, when you say I want to execute that person and you're the president of the United States, I have to take you literally. When you stand in front of a rally in Las Vegas and talk about boats and electrocution and sharks, I have to take you literally. I don't know how to take it otherwise.
And he will be followed through the halls by all those members of Congress who want to be seen with him, who want to kiss the ring, who want to take a picture with him for their campaign ads, all of that, who call themselves conservatives, and yet they're just following a man, not really even an ideology, a theory of economics or politics or anything else.
Have you ever seen, in your research and your time in government, anyone run for office really running against the very government that they are supposed to be overseeing?
Absolutely unprecedented, Abby. Absolutely unprecedented.